Okay, so now that we have our matte painting bash, or matte painting that is live, that we have the foundations of our shot, we can start having fun and detailing this. So the first thing I'm doing is importing this little guy that I have here, and it's just a basic dash 3D model of a man. It's about 1 meter and 75 centimeters tall, I think, so it's just as reference so I can make sure that the scale is always accurate. As you just saw, I always also have my reference open on the side, and I'm going to start by trying to model this little bridge here. So the techniques I use when it comes to modeling are really simple polygonal modeling techniques, so really nothing too complicated. I almost never do sub-D modeling, and once again, I don't care about the quality of the mesh. I think that is something that still quite differentiates like the pure environment TD guy, the 3D guy from the matte painter. The matte painter can really allow himself to have a geometry that is super light because the geometry, the assets that you're going to create really need to work only for your shot most of the time. So you really don't have to care about the geometry. And also in this case, since this bridge is going to be quite far, we can really do something quite basic. We don't need to detail it too much. And even for the texturing, you will see that we don't even need proper UVs, but I will show that later. So just simple polygonal modeling techniques, and very often also reusing the same shapes, selecting faces, extruding them, still making sure, as you can see here, to keep to keep it sort of clean, not too much, but you don't want your mesh to be a mess, obviously. Okay, for this bridge, I'm doing, as you saw in the references, some kind of Scottish bridge made of stones. So when I do the modeling at this stage, I'm not worrying that much about the details. It's really a matter of getting the basic shape, and I'm also not modeling the whole bridge as one piece. I'm modeling like one section. Then once I have that section, I will duplicate it, obviously. Okay, so to quickly sum it all up, I usually start with primitives like cylinders, cubes, whatever, just plane also sometimes, then extrude faces, move vertices around, duplicate faces, duplicate objects, extrude, bevel, and that's about it really. So I'm gonna speed this up a little bit just because I don't want to bore you guys. It's pretty much the same process, repeat it over again. So yeah, I'm just gonna speed this up. Okay, so as you can see, I've kept doing the same processes all over again. And here I'm just importing some few kit bash assets, trying to incorporate them into the design of this bridge, just to add some variations because it's quite a long bridge. There's quite a long distance between our foreground elements and our main castle, our hero hill. So you want to make sure that this bridge has enough variations, otherwise the repetitions will be very visible, and obviously you don't want that. It's just really unnatural. So that is one of the key things to pay attention to, and that is also why I keep visualizing the shot through my shot cam and see how this bridge looks through my shot cam, because it's really all that matters. You always gotta pay attention to what things look like in context. That's what it's all about. It's not a 3D modeling task. It is not an asset or task. It's really we're doing shot work, so you gotta make a shot. You gotta do movie magic essentially. So it's all about illusion. And here I'm just modeling extra pieces. Just try, as I said, to break the repetitions as much as I can. Always looking at my references and also keeping an eye on the scale, which is why I have our little dash guy standing on this bridge. And I have a few of them in the scene actually. So as you can see, the modeling is quite rough here, but once again, it doesn't really matter. I've said it many times. So keep that in mind. It's all about movie magic and giving the illusion of something. It's all about making the shot work. That's all that matters for now. If it looks okay through the eyes of the shot cam, then it's fine. Don't fix what doesn't need to be fixed. Here I just have some minor geometry issues that I'm trying to solve. Once again, in a very simple and quite rough way. And it's one thing I really want you guys to keep in mind. It's sort of the essence, in my very humble opinion, of what the matte painter job is to give illusions. So you gotta keep in mind this attitude of trying to make things work just for the shot. Because that's why companies hire matte painters. It's because those guys can really bypass the whole pipeline. They don't need to properly model and shade the whole environment. They can just use those, I wouldn't say shortcuts because it's still quite a lengthy process, but they can still use this wide range of techniques to blend 2D and 3D technique in a very organic way to make this shot happen really quickly. Okay, so I'm gonna cut here because it's simply repeating the same processes all over again, and we'll come back once this bridge is done. Okay, so now that our bridge is done, I can start to mess around with our kit bash assets. And they'll look awesome, they're pretty detailed, which is pretty cool, so I'm gonna focus on trying to do something really cool here with our castle and the surroundings houses. The idea is that we have this main castle sitting on this hill, and the reference I have in mind is maybe Hogwarts and Harry Potter. And then we would have a bunch of houses on the side of the hill and also in the foreground. So yeah, just mess around with it and trying to do some pretty cool compositions. We could also have some kind of village at the end of the bridge. So really at the bottom of the mountain. One thing that I would also mention is that even though in this case we're not doing like a big deal of modeling, we're using those really cool kit bash assets and it's really awesome. You also want to make sure you sort of know how to model, because there will be times obviously where you won't have access to those awesome assets. So even though in this case we're not modeling that much, it's still a good thing to be able to do, and I would say it's absolutely necessary if you want to be a matte painter or environment TD guy. You absolutely need to be able to model some basic stuff. Not to the level of a proper modeler, but definitely have some good basics of polygonal modeling, texturing as well, we'll see later, and rendering. So yeah, matte painting is really a discipline that requires a lot of different skills. So it definitely takes time to learn them all. It typically takes years. So yeah, don't be too intimidated by that, I guess. If you really want to do it, you can do it. But just know that, yes, it just takes a good deal of time to master all this stuff. That's perfectly normal. And that is also why you gotta really put in the hours when you begin. And here I'm simply modifying a little bit this geometry, just so the castle sits a bit better on the hill. It makes more sense to modify the geometry of the castle than to go back into World Machine in this case.